due to high winds. M4 entry and exit slip roads at junction 41 Pentila Baglan are closed for maintenance, with diversions in place. M62 westbound in Kirklees has congestion between junctions 25 and 24 after a collision, closing 2 lanes. Normal conditions are expected later tonight. The M3 westbound in Surrey is down 1 lane between junction 2 and 3 due to a collision. Normal conditions are expected by 8:15. And on the trains, expect disruption with Avanti West Coast between Rugby and Stafford and cross-country between Darlington, Hexham and Newcastle. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good evening to you and welcome to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. On tonight's show, Conservative peers have today launched a last-ditch bid to stop Sir Keir Starmer handing over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. They've triggered a so-called fatal motion, which represents the first time it's ever been used to attempt to block a government treaty. If Labour ignore it, it could trigger a huge political showdown. Plus, a man convicted after burning a Koran says his right to protest has been crushed. I'll be asking, are we sleepwalking back into policing blasphemy in Great Britain? And white working-class children are falling behind their peers in 94% of British schools across the country, while the white working classes once again being completely and utterly abandoned and betrayed. Welcome to the show. What a day it's been in politics. The Defence Review has hit the buffers. Can we even trust the government to control our defences when they can't control our borders? Are we slipping backwards into de facto blasphemy laws? And that astonishing report that white working class peoples, and particularly boys, have been completely and utterly abandoned by the entire system should bring great shame on our nation. And guess what? It probably won't, because they don't qualify for special treatment under our old friend, the Equality Act. Please do get in touch. gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now's your headlines, and here's Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you and good evening. The top stories. Defence Secretary John Healey says a new era for UK defence is needed as he pledged to make the British Army 10 times more lethal. In a statement to the Commons this evening, Mr Healey said the government will accept the 62 recommendations in the Strategic Defence Review. His comments come after Sir Keir Starmer says every citizen has a role to play as the UK shifts to full war-fighting readiness in its most ambitious defence overhaul since the Cold War. The Prime Minister's announced 6 new munitions factories, 12 nuclear submarines and billions for AI, cybersecurity and missile defence, calling for innovation at wartime pace. Veterans Minister Alistair Cairns told GB News the government aims to get defence spending to 3% GDP by the next Parliament, but failed to say exactly when.
First of all, before we get into the detail, it's worth just stepping back. I spent 24 years in the military in quite specialist elements and sort of had insight into everything. And I don't think I can remember a period of time that has been so geopolitically fractious or fragile. So I think the Strategic Defence Review is exceptionally well timed. We've been really clear. We put in excess of £5 billion into this year into defence. By 2027, that will go up to £13 billion. And then we've also said that it can be delivered to move to 3% by the next Parliament.
A man has been found guilty of a religiously aggravated public order offence after burning a Quran outside the Turkish consulate in London. Hamid Koskan shouted anti-Islamic slurs as he set the text alight in Knightsbridge in February. Footage showed passers-by confronting and attacking him. The 50-year-old argued it was a protest against President Erdogan and a lawful act of free expression, but the court ruled his actions caused harassment and distress. Hamid said in a statement this afternoon that his conviction was an assault on free speech and will deter others from exercising their democratic rights. Police investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann will carry out fresh searches in Portugal. The Metropolitan Police say they're aware of the searches said to be conducted by German Federal Police in Portugal, where Madeleine disappeared while on holiday with her family in the resort of Praia de Luz 18 years ago. A spokesperson for the Met said our service is not present at the search, but we will support our international colleagues where necessary. This is to be the first search in Portugal in over 2 years. To the US, a man has been charged with a hate crime after people at a rally in support of Israeli hostages were targeted with petrol bombs and a makeshift flamethrower in Colorado. 45-year-old Mohammed Sullivan's been charged with the federal crime of causing bodily injury because of actual or perceived race, colour, religion or national origin. US President Donald Trump vows to prosecute the attacker to the fullest extent of the law. 8 people were injured in that attack while the suspect shouted "Free Palestine." Police say the victims suffered serious burns, with at least one person in a critical condition. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt gave this update this evening.
Well, there's certainly a concern that the previous administration allowed way too many terrorists and illegal immigrants into the interior of our country, and that's why the Department of Homeland Security is working overtime to arrest, detain, and deport as many illegal criminals and terrorists that we can in the United States of America, and any act of violence will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Finally, in sports, Britain's Jack Draper has been knocked out of the French Open. He went out in the 4th round, losing in 4 sets to Alexander Bublik of Kazakhstan. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Tatiana. Excellent as ever, and welcome to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, Conservative peers are making a dramatic last-ditch bid to stop Sir Keir Starmer handing the Chagos Islands to Mauritius in that controversial £30 billion deal. Tories and the Lords have tabled a fatal motion to kill off the treaty, which would see Britain surrender the British Indian Ocean Territory and fork out billions of pounds over the next 99 years. Now, if the motion passes, ministers could be hauled into the Commons to explain why they're ignoring the Lords. That's the first time peers have tried to use a little-known law from 2010 to block a treaty, and it's setting up a major political showdown. Well, joining me now in the studio to discuss this is Madeleine McCann, the founder of the group British Indian Ocean Territory. And Madeleine is also pushing for a judicial review into the deal. I'm also delighted to be joined by Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, the former Conservative minister, who can help break down some of the complicated parliamentary procedures that's involved in this so-called fatal motion. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Mr. Mandarin, I'm going to start with you. So you've launched a plea. It's in conjunction with Ben Habib, who's the founder of the Great British PAC. Help us stop the Chagos Island betrayal. Tell us about your motion and what you hope to achieve.
So basically, one thing I want to explain to your viewers and the British people as well about the Chagos Islands. People say Chagos Islands, they say remote, or I'll just make a comparison with Jersey, for example. Let's say the Jersey is near the coast of France, right? Just imagine this. The British government, by Labour, come to Jersey, remove the people put in France, and say to them, you're not allowed to go back again. Right? That's been happening to us for nearly more than 50 years now. And now, Keir Starmer, right, our Prime Minister, decided to hand over our island to Mauritius, like Jersey, to France, and said, oh, you will keep your nationality, but you will be under French rule. Can you imagine this? Is that happened to Jersey, or is that happened to any British overseas territory, right? So that's why we meet with Ben Habib and Great British PAC to help us to stop that deal. We have to stop that madness. For me personally, is Sir Keir Starmer folly.
Now, I'd like to show a clip to viewers of GB News tonight. The last time you appeared on my show, this clip had 500,000 views. You reduced me to tears in the studio. I was blown away. Let's take a quick look at that clip now.
Prime Minister just treat us like, I don't know, worse than animal. And have the audacity call himself like a human rights lawyer. He works only for himself and his close friends. That's what he's doing right now.
Mr. You were there with your sister, and your resolve is getting stronger.
Yeah, I'm still, the pain in my heart is very heavy. It's very, very heavy. Just put you and Jacob, Sir Jacob, in my place right now, right? You don't have a country, you don't have a home, right? And now is a chance where my home to stay British, because I'm a British citizen. How can you have a home which is not British under different sovereignty, and we are British? I don't understand the logic of our Prime Minister Keir Starmer. For what he's doing right now, honestly, for all the Chagosians, I agree to it, he's doing ethnic cleansings. Because right now, we are not Mauritian. Try to force Mauritian culture, Mauritian rules on us, British citizens. Now, we can start questioning ourselves now because we look different. So Keir Starmer have to come and respond to my question right now. Why he's doing that to black British people, law-abiding citizens, and paying our taxes like everybody else.
And it's worth repeating, you served in the British Army.
Yes.
Such your commitment to the Crown.
Yes, fully commitment to the Crown. I will give my life to the Crown. I'll give my life to my country. I said that already, and I'm ready to do it again. That's why I'm team up with Ben Habib and the Great British PAC to do that judicial review.
OK, Madeleine, thank you. Please stick with us. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, I'd like to bring you in now. You have an emergency motion. Tell us about how that works, and do you think it has a chance of success?
OK, well, there's the Constitution Reform and Governance Act 2010, which requires that treaties are laid before Parliament, and both houses then have the chance to vote upon them. If the House of Commons votes on a treaty and votes against it, the treaty is finished off. If the House of Lords does so, it isn't. It's called a fatal motion, but it isn't actually fatal. But it's a huge political embarrassment to the government and would raise further questions, and Misley's put them so clearly and well, about the treatment of the Chagosians, about people who ought to have a right to self-determination in the same way as the Falkland Islanders and the Gibraltarians, who have decided to remain British, and the Chagosians have just been told they've got to be Mauritian. So it's not going to kill the treaty, but it's a major political embarrassment. What chance is there of it succeeding? No party has a majority in the House of Lords. So what is required is for crossbenchers, those are peers without a political affiliation, and Liberals to back the Conservative motion, in which case the government could be defeated. And this really is making the government look very stupid. It's looking like an absolute surrender government that, as Misley has pointed out, is actually behaving in a racist way, ignoring the rights of the people of Chagos.
What do you say to people as a Brexiteer yourself? There was a lot of talk at the time of the House of Lords being weaponised as a blocking chamber, as a way of stopping things we didn't like. Is there a comparison? Or are you using the House of Lords to try and block something that's been democratically put through Parliament?
It hasn't been democratically put through Parliament.
And that's
the thing about Brexit was that it had a vote from the British people. This hasn't had a vote from anybody at all. This is done purely under the prerogative powers. I'm very surprised that giving away Chagos doesn't require an Act of Parliament, that it can just be done by the Prime Minister signing a document, particularly the commitment to £30 billion, because constitutionally, the expenditure of money requires the approval of the House of Commons. So I don't understand how they're getting away with this in the form that they're doing it. So the Lords is acting in its traditional manner as the protector, the guardian of the Constitution.
Mr. Manry, could I bring you back in at this point? When you think about the commitment you've given to Britain, you joined the army, you're prepared to put your life on the line, prepared to die. When you see how you've been treated, how Chagosians have been treated, you're still proudly British. You still love and respect our constitution, our crown, our nation, our democratic heritage. But does this kind of treatment make you question all of that?
You see, the thing is, when the Chagosian was deported to Mauritius, right, a sense of Britishness never leave us, right? So just bear in mind, Martin, we've been away from our island, from this British government, and now we want British government. The reason why Mauritius is worse, because Mauritius got 50 years to look after Chagosian. We've been treated as second citizen in abject poverty. So we don't have trust in Mauritian government. That's where this betrayal is so deep for us. So now, I know it's all politics, but I know the British people is behind the Chagos Islands, behind the Chagosians. But the political parties, right, have to do better for us.
And the last time you were in the studio, you were talking about this vent of anger amongst the Chagosians could in itself become a political force, could become a political movement, because you feel abandoned by the current government, so you might try and do something about changing that.
So basically what I'm thinking, the thing what happened with the Chagos Island right now is going to be like a domino effect. If that happened to us, it could happen to Falkland Islands, it could happen to Gibraltar, it could happen any OTs of who got British sovereignty on this. So basically, we here to raise our voice. If that's going to be a political party force, something different, where the people I never have any experience in political, but I know in my heart, is something wrong there. I have to fight for it. So that's what I'm doing right now. So for me, any parties say, oh, they stand up for Chagosian and stand up for the Chagos Islands to stay British, I'm behind them. I'm not that. You know what I mean? So because I feel I'm British, so the politician, especially in government, have to do better.
And Sir Jacob, if I could finish with you, is there any notion, do you think, that there could be that domino effect? I mean, if you're the president of Argentina wielding his chainsaw now, you might be licking your lips about the prospect of getting your claws into the Falkland Islands.
Well, also I think if you're Spain, that you'll be looking at Gibraltar and you'll see that this government doesn't stand up to anybody. It doesn't stand up to Mauritius, it doesn't stand up to China, it doesn't stand up to the European Union. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they start hauling the white flag up above Gibraltar. There is not a government you can trust. It is not a government that backs British citizens. It is a government that backs its own idea of human rights, which basically means Britain comes last.
Okay, so Jacob Rees-Mogg, Ms. Mandarin, thank you, gentlemen, both for your contribution and for your fight. Thank you. Now, coming up next, Britain is not ready for a war against a similar state like Russia. That's the damning finding of the government's long-awaited strategic defence review. Its publication comes on the same day the Prime Minister promised to make the nation battle-ready. So what is the state of the nation's military? We'll break down the report in full and the political fallout, and that's next.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Eve, very good morning. You commented on this. This is your subject. What do you think? Why is this happening? Because we're sitting now, I'm at a stage now where all my kids are growing up, whatever. I don't have to face this thing anymore. But I'm suddenly stopping and going, what? What am I paying this for? Why are we paying this? Why is this going to 750 schools and not all schools?
So this is a pilot run by the Department for Education to look at how this programme can work. It was a manifesto commitment from the Labour Party at the last election, and they're very keen to roll this out nationally, but they're doing this pilot for a short period until July to see how they can do this effectively to ensure that it meets the most children. So really, that's a kind of sensible way of rolling out what is quite a big programme.
Yes, it's important to do the pilots and study it and see who it helps and who it doesn't and how expensive it could be if it's rolled out
getting the money
nationally.
to pay for this?
Well, exactly. What do they say about that, Eve? I mean, where are they going to get the money to pay for it?
So they've committed to 30 million towards it. To be honest, we're in a situation as a country where 1/4 of primary school teachers are saying that they regularly spend their own money on feeding kids. That cannot be right. We know that we've got a child poverty problem in this country, and I think it's a reasonably good use of taxpayers' money to be spending it on ensuring that children go to school and they are fed and able to learn.
Well, I just look and I think the basic primary parental responsibility is to look after your children, to feed your children. And I sit and scratch my head and say, of all the things that we can do as parents, all the things we can spend money on, are you telling me that you can't give your kid a bit of toast and a cup of tea in the morning?
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, today, the long-awaited review into the state of Britain's armed forces has been damning in its verdict. It shows that our defence systems are still stuck in the past and have not been properly updated since the end of the Cold War. Now, the report concludes Britain is not ready for war against a hostile state such as Russia. And this publication comes the same day as the Prime Minister pledged to boost defence spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, with an ambition of hitting 3% by 2034. Well, there's no firm deadline and no clear plan yet on how that will even be funded. Well, joining me now to discuss this in the studio is Mark Francois, the Shadow Defence Minister, and Sir Nick Harvey, the former Liberal Democrat Minister of State for the Armed Forces. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. Mr Francois, let's start with you. You've got the full spending review there. I've been through some of the headlines. What I can make out, Britain is not ready for war. The army is understaffed, it's ill-equipped, and it's strangled in red tape. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, look, the fundamental point about this is the people who did the review said in order to deliver its 62 recommendations,
you had to guarantee to spend 3% of GDP on defence, and then this plan is affordable. The government won't say that. The Defence Secretary said a few days ago they would by 2034. He was countermanded by the Treasury. The Prime Minister gave a press conference this morning outside of the Commons in Scotland against every rule in the book. He was asked repeatedly by your media colleagues, will you guarantee to spend 3? And he ducked it every single time. So this is an IOU. It's a promissory note without real cash. If you won't promise to spend the money, then this doesn't work. There was pandemonium in the Commons this afternoon when it was revealed that, one, journalists were given this at 10:30 this morning, long before any MP saw it, long before the opposition were allowed to see it. Then the Speaker in pub English went tonto. Then we found out that a number of industrialists, businessmen, were given this at 8 o'clock this morning, just as the markets were opening. Now, that's a very serious matter, because some people, if they had insider knowledge, could have traded on that basis. And this was long before MPs got any sight of it at all. And I'm sure that this is not going to rest there.
And Babcock International, the company that maintains those submarines, saw a 7% bump this morning. Potential to make a bunch of money off that. Let's move on.
Just quickly, I know the people who run Babcock, they are very decent people, but someone else who found out that information might have been able to take advantage of it.
Cynic Harvey, let's bring you in now. You've had a chance to pore over the detail. Are you satisfied this goes anywhere near making Britain armour-clad and battle-ready, as the Keir Starmer promises?
I don't think I'd be prepared to give it that ringing endorsement, but I think it's broadly heading in the right direction. I would support it as a direction of travel. We didn't hear anything about money today, as Marc Francois says. I'd actually go further than him. I'm not convinced 3% of GDP would even pay for this. I think 3% of GDP will soon get accounted for plugging gaps, covering cost overruns, dealing with the fact that we haven't even got the number of personnel that it says on the manifest at the moment. I think as you listen to other states talking about 3.5% of GDP on defence and 1.5% on sort of cyber defence and not conventional military expenditure, I can't see 3% actually fulfilling what this is describing at all.
And Marc Francois...
But sorry, even if it could, I mean, I take your point. You could argue it might require more than that. I completely take your point. But even if, for argument's sake, you could do it for 3%, the government won't promise that. So, in other words, they can't deliver it.
It's true, but in fairness, they've got a spending review in the next week or two. It would have been odd if they had broken ranks to talk
but
about
Healy did. Last Thursday, he said, in the Times, categorically, we will spend 3% by 2034. So they did break ranks. The Secretary of State for Defence broke ranks. Empirically, it happened.
And there's been a lot of talk about this word ambition.
Yes.
It's our ambition. It's my ambition, Mark, to play for Nottingham Forest. It won't ever happen. So why should we believe this word ambition?
Ambition is what you say when you know you can't afford it. I mean, I have an ambition to go to the moon, but I just don't have enough avios to get there. So what has happened is you've got, I suspect what has happened is you've got the comprehensive spending review on Wednesday week. Rachel from Accounts is locked in this vicious argument with all these other government departments. If the MOD, quotes, get away with it, how's she going to hold the line against Angela Rayner and all the other ministers? So that's why the Treasury have countermanded what the Defence Secretary said. The Prime Minister's probably been told by the Chancellor, don't you dare endorse 3%, because then I can't hold the line with all the others. And the net effect of that is a total and utter train crash.
And also, Cynic Harvey, there's been a lot of talk today. GB News, I think, asked the best question, I would say that, and that was, why should we trust the government to repel Vladimir Putin if we can't repel 1,200 people arriving here legally in dinghies in a single day? We can't even defend our own coast.
Well, very few countries can, unfortunately. The issues of mass migration are complex and slightly different from what we're talking about today. I mean, I think that quite a bit of this will happen. I mean, I'll believe 12 tactical submarines when I see them, but I think the priority setting is broadly speaking right. I think the direction is broadly speaking right. But I think that even around us now, other countries are upping their game. And I think that if we don't raise the financial commitment, we're going to be left behind. And this aspiration we have of leading in Europe and helping to build a European pillar of NATO will struggle to be fulfilled if we're lagging at the back. And, of course, quite a lot of our expenditure goes on the nuclear deterrent, which other countries in Europe are not doing. So if you're looking at the conventional element of it, we risk being even further behind.
And Mark Francois, is there always the worry with this that we seem to be tethered to the European Union again? We saw that with this reset talk. There seems to be baked in these sub-clauses of committing to EU defence funds to even get to the table for things like munitions bids.
Look, this £150 billion EU rearmament fund, I'll believe it when I see it. But at the moment, they're not necessarily giving us access to that. But in return, we've given them access to our fishing grounds for 12 years. Yeah. And, oh, by the way, one of the, sometimes a picture paints 1,000 words. We saw this photograph yesterday of all these people clambering onto these boats and a bunch of French policemen standing there taking photos and selfies while they did it. We've given the French nearly £500 million to prevent that, and they're taking selfies of each other on the beach.
Should we stop the dosh?
I agree with Chris Philp, the Shanahan who said today we should rip up the fish deal unless and until, well, we should rip it up anyway, but unless and until the French start enforcing stopping the boats. Because the Defence Secretary himself, John Healey, has had a busy weekend. He said at the weekend, quote, "We have lost control of our borders." Well, you jolly well have, mate. And oh, by the way, if one way of making this add up, one way of financing it would not be to give £30 billion of British taxpayers' money to Mauritius in order to rent back an island that belongs to us in the first place. It's like the MOD have just taken leave of their senses.
Mark Francois, we have to leave it there. And Cynic Harvey, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on GB News tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Now, a man has been convicted of racially aggravated public order offences after he set fire to a copy of the Quran. But critics argue this is putting Britain on a path to backdoor blasphemy laws and will grant Muslims special protections which could be abused. We'll have reaction to this throughout the show.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now, things are going to take a bit of a change as we go through the next 24 hours. There's some heavy rain, some strong winds pushing through, and a slightly fresher feel following in behind. It's all due to a cold front that is coming in from the northwest, and it's going to progress southeastwards across the whole country as we go through the rest of today and tomorrow. So across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, a pretty wet picture overnight, some high rainfall totals, some strong blustery winds, and that rain later feeding into parts of northern and western England and Wales as well. Most places are going to see temperatures holding up in double figures, partly because of the unsettled weather. Then as we go through tomorrow morning, in the southeast, actually clinging on to some fine weather for a little while longer. So a dry start here, some early sunshine, but elsewhere across much of England and Wales, a pretty cloudy and damp start to the day, and watch out for those blustery winds as well. Meanwhile, across Northern Ireland and Scotland, yes, the more persistent rain will have pushed through, but there will be plenty of showers around, and some of these showers will be fairly heavy. There could even be the odd rumble of thunder, maybe a bit of hail mixed in as we go through the day. Also need to be aware of the blustery winds. The strongest winds will be along the front as it goes through, but towards the north and west we could still be looking at some strong gusts in coastal parts. Meanwhile, towards the southeast, that rain eventually arrives as we head towards lunchtime and lingers for a time during the afternoon before eventually clearing away, and for all of us a bit of a fresher feel compared to recent days, despite the fact that there will be some sunshine on offer. Also some sunshine on offer as we go through Wednesday, but again we're likely to see a fair few showers around, most frequent, most widespread towards the north, but as we go through the afternoon they are going to pick up a little bit more across southern parts as well. More showery weather on offer as we go through the end of the week, and that cooler feel continues, though warm enough in any sunshine.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Now, of course, this evening at 9 p.m. is Patrick Christys tonight, and the star of that show joins me now, the formidable Patrick Christys. Patrick, I believe you've got a sensational exclusive guest.
Yes, I do indeed, Martin. Thank you very much. So Hamid Choksun, who is the man who was found guilty today after he burnt a copy of the Quran in public, he sat down with me earlier on. It was a wide-ranging interview. He explains exactly why he did it. He actually says that he's faced death threats and gives some quite chilling accounts of that. He also, speaking through a translator, it's important to say, told us that he might do it again.
Activist, I'm an atheist, and I'm a critic of Islam, and I've been fighting for this for years, all my life, and I intend to continue my fight.
He also has an absolutely incredible message for Sir Keir Starmer about the realities of Islamist fundamentalism and how bad that is in the West. Potentially a wake-up call that for everybody. He thinks that Sir Keir Starmer might be protecting the radical Islamists, something that Keir Starmer would no doubt deny. Also today, Martin, just quickly, I decided to go out and expose the complete ridiculousness of the government's new vape ban, the disposable vape ban. So here I am. So, that's how easy it is. Disposable vape. That is the third shop just on this road alone where I have either bought or could have bought a disposable vape. Yes, there's some quite hilarious footage, to be perfectly honest with you, of me just confronting a procession of vape shop owners there about why they're still selling illegal stuff. There's no point bringing in a law if you're not going to enforce it. It just makes more people likely to do things like shoplifting and tube fare hopping and all of that stuff. Completely pointless law, Martin. Anyway, back to you.
Patrick Christys tonight, 9 p.m, and including a smoking exclusive there. The guests they all wanted. 9 p.m, Patrick Christys tonight. Thank you very, very much indeed, Patrick. Now, on that same story now, a man has been convicted after setting fire to a copy of the Quran during a protest outside the Turkish consulate in London. The courts found him guilty of religiously aggravated public order offences, arguing his actions were motivated by hatred towards Muslims. Now, critics say this amounts to a blasphemy law in all but name, and that free speech includes the freedom to offend anybody. Well, the man who fled persecution in Turkey claims he was protesting Islamism, not Muslims. So is this a proportionate response to hate speech, or are we sleepwalking back into policing blasphemy in Britain? Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Taj Hagi. He's the founder of the Oxford Institute for British Islam, and also by Fayaz Magal, the founder of Tal Mama. Let's start with you, if I could, Taj Hagi. How does this make you feel today? Is this the correct ruling, or is it a step back towards blasphemy laws?
Well, while it is distasteful and distressing for anyone to burn any holy text, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, whatever, this man has absolute right to do so. I mean, it is his freedom of expression. Now, there is no such crime as blasphemy in Islam, actually. This is very important to raise right at the beginning. This is an invented crime by the clergy. There's no verse in the Quran that says blasphemy is punishable. In fact, God says when people mock the Quran, mock Islam, ridicule you, ignore them. Do not engage with them, just ignore them. So this man is perfectly entitled to, I don't like him doing that. And like I've said, burning the Torah or burning Bhagavad Gita or any holy text, I think it's very provocative and distasteful. But if we're going to have freedom of speech in this country, which I firmly believe in, then he has the right, however distasteful and distressing it might be.
Mr. McGowan, could I bring you in now? Do you think there'd been the same outrage, the same backlash, the same guilty verdicts if, for example, I don't know, a Bible had been burned? Or is the Quran, does it have special protection?
Well, that's a really good question you've raised. I think given the law under which the judge made the ruling, there is a very good chance that other individuals felt particularly targeted because somebody standing outside, irrespective of what they were trying to do, outside an institution where they felt that they were at risk or where they felt that they were threatened or in a way where they felt harassed or intimidated would probably fall under the current statute of the law. So what I'm trying to say is under the public order offences, there's a very good chance that it would cover something that happens outside an institution where maybe Christians or Jews or members of other faiths. And herein lies the issue. I totally agree with Dr. Taj Hagi, who I deeply respect. And Taj is absolutely right in everything he's saying. In this current context, the public order offence is actually the law that either has to be changed or amended or, in effect, read as it is in the statute books, as the judge has said. So under the current law, the judge has absolutely read it proportionately and under the current statute. So in a way, if the law is to be changed, it needs to be changed in the next parliament. I can't see it be changed under this Labour government.
Let's bring you back in now, if I could, Taj. And let's be honest, it's very dangerous to criticise Islam. The Batley Grammar School teacher is still in hiding 4 years after showing a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad during a school lesson. He'd done that previously before. It's deadly to do so in France. We saw that with Charlie Hebdo and the teacher who was basically decapitated. Is there a sense that clamping down on so-called Islamophobic crimes, in that sense, is legally more important because there can be a deadly consequence if you criticise Islam?
I think one thing we need to make very clear, and we need to educate both the general public and particularly the Muslim community. There's no such thing as blasphemy. You know, people, this is an invented thing. It's nowhere in the Quran. The Quran says, yes, go ahead, mock him, mock me, mock God, mock Muhammad, mock anything, and ridicule whatever. But there is no earthly punishment. All the Quran advises is ignore them, stay away from them, and that should have happened to the Batley teacher, should have happened to the guy in France who was beheaded, or whatever. I mean, this idea that Muslims have the right to be judge, jury, and executioner and kill people willy-nilly in the name of Islam, this should be called out because it's got nothing to do with my religion. It's got nothing to do with the Quran. It's got nothing to do with Islam. And we should be bold enough and brave enough to shout it from the rooftops so that Muslim fundamentalists, extremists, fanatics, fruitcakes, fundamentalists, whatever you want to call them, they then get the message loud and clear that this is not what Islam preaches. This is what your toxic theology is promoting. And we in Britain, as British Muslims, we will have nothing to do with it, and we will stand up and resist this.
Gentlemen, you're both nodding along there vociferously, and in an ideal world, your sentiment would land and would be fruitful and would become practice. But we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a world where fundamentalism is becoming more prominent. We're seeing more and more of these terrorist attacks on British soil, on French soil. And so while your sentiment is well-meaning, Taj Hagi, it's perhaps slightly optimistic at best. Mr. Mughal,
I would respectfully disagree with you. It's optimistic at best because there's not enough Muslims putting their heads above the parapet. We need people like you and the media and everyone else to help people like Fayaz, myself, and everyone out there to put our heads above the parapet and to show the Al-Qaeda lot, the ISIS, the Taliban, and all of these fascists that, listen, there is a better and more productive way of doing it, and Islam doesn't condone this type of intolerance and brutality brutality and barbarism. Because to kill someone just because you dislike them, burning the Quran or showing pictures of Muhammad or whatever the case may be, who gives you, I should ask, who gives that person the right to be judge, jury, and executioner? So, yes, at the moment, Fayaz, myself, we are in a minority, but we need the media in this country, especially media like GBNews and others, because we can't rely so much on the BBC. We need the media to help the progressive, the forward-looking people, Muslims in the Muslim community, to fight this.
Taj Hagi, excellent sentiment. Final word to you, Fayaz McCann.
Well, I've got to say that there's an important aspect that has been raised by your excellent programme. The fact is, we don't need a blasphemy law. We should never have any blasphemy laws. And I'm really concerned about the Islamophobia, quote, definition this government is trying to get through. We need to tackle that. We need to stop it in its tracks, because you can see there are enough laws in this country. We don't need more laws and more laws to constrict and infringe on the right for people to speak up or speak out. That's my final word.
OK, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for your frank and fearless contributions to the show tonight. Thank you for speaking out, and thank you for your kind words to GB News, and thanks for appearing on the show tonight. That's Taj Hagi and Fayaz McCann. Thank you, gentlemen, very, very much indeed. Wow, you don't get that on many other channels, if indeed anywhere. Proud of that. Now, coming up next, just why are working-class white boys falling behind in 94% of schools across England? Astonishing data. That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
And looking further afield, there's plenty of warm sunshine, not as hot as recent days, with the risk of thunderstorms, but it is going to be breezy across the Canary Islands and parts of Madeira. Plenty of sunshine across Portugal and southern parts of Spain, but there are going to be frequent showers and thunderstorms across the Alps. Plenty of sunshine across parts of Italy and Greece, and we hold on to plenty of warm sunshine as we go through the week. Few showers around, but highs up to the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns tomorrow from 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, last night, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, slammed the system, saying white working-class kids are being left behind and betrayed, which is true. New figures reveal that these pupils are lagging in nearly every UK secondary school, 94% of schools to be exact. Well, the research that shames Britain shows that white boys from poor, work-class homes have the lowest hopes and dreams of any group in all of the nation. But critics say Labour's only waking up to this crisis now to fight back against the rising threat of Reform UK. Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by the former Conservative MP, Nick Fletcher, who has tirelessly campaigned on this issue. Nick, you went up the ladder on this issue. You fought tirelessly. I want to thank you for your work on this issue. This will come as no surprise to you. For 20 plus years, it's been the case. Do you have any faith this Labour Party review will magically solve the issue?
No, none whatsoever, unfortunately. There's been so much talk about this over the years. There's been report after report after report done. I did one myself back in 2023 through the APPG for issues affecting men and boys, and we continually keep on having to press this issue. But it's also girls as well, as we've seen. It's white working class individuals that have been sidelined or appear to have been sidelined for every other minority group that's out there. And it's right that when these minority groups have been failed, and which they have done over the years, it's right that we've put focus on those and we've tried to bring those up. But what's happened is we've put a focus on one group and we've ignored the majority of the white working class people in this country, and unfortunately they've been left behind.
And the point with this, though, Nick Fletcher, it's been going on for over 20 years. White working class boys in particular, they've been at the bottom from nursery to university, the least likely to attend university, people from communities like myself, coal belts, people like communities where you are up there in Donny. And, you know, it's like this has been going on for so long and there's been so much lip service. But here's the problem. And I'm involved on these groups myself. I was an ambassador for International Men's Day. I've had friends of mine take their lives way too soon because they just feel abandoned. Politicians pay lip service, nothing ever happens. And I put it to you, they cannot act because they cannot be colourblind. The moment you say white people are suffering, they go, well, but white people are privileged. White people rule the world. And if you're born male, you're born white, you've won life's lottery, and damn the kids at the bottom.
Yeah, I challenge anybody who thinks there's white privilege taking place in some of the mining communities that I've represented. Doncaster is a typical place, just like you said where you came from yourself. And these communities have just been left, and they've been left to rot. And I genuinely believe the reason that they've been left is that they've been represented by Labour politicians who've sat in these seats as safe seats. They've took the vote for granted. They've got themselves a fantastic career down in Westminster, and they've just forgot about everybody. And when they had a Conservative Member of Parliament for the first time who actually came from one of these areas, who'd actually grown up, who knew the people, who knew the problems, and we actually started raising the issues, then people started taking note of this. We really started getting somewhere with it. Unfortunately, I wasn't returned to Parliament last year, but I know there's some good people down there who are actually continuing to champion this. And I thank you too for all your efforts.
It's an absolute pleasure, mate. I come from these communities. You know, I feel a great heaviness on my heart when I read data like this, as I know you do too. Is there more than a whiff of cynicism about this report now? There seems to be a constant rearguard action fought against Reform UK because they are becoming that protest party of the white working class. We saw it in Brexit. We saw it actually when Boris Johnson blew the red wall away and returned. Is this a cynical move to try and shore up a vote when we all probably suspect, when push comes to shove, Labour Party don't really give a damn about these kids, or if they do, what kind of legislation are they going to bring through to actually do something?
Well, they're actually bringing legislation, I think, forward in the schools bill that's actually going to damage any of the progress that we did make. I mean, the Conservative government definitely had its failures over its time, but it did actually raise education across the board. Obviously, boys especially have been dropping by the wayside. But yeah, I mean, this is all that it is. It's always lip service with Labour. It always has been. It always will be. And unfortunately, they've lost the trust of the entire British nation, which is why you're seeing the voting that's happened recently. I mean, whatever they say, no one believes it. I mean, you've seen today with the defence announcement up there. The only reason up there is because there's a huge by-election coming across and they don't want to be seen to be losing it. Everything about them is party politics, and the people are sick and tired of it. And they're letting people know at the elections that's what they're doing.
And Nick Fletcher, I put it to you as well that we're seeing a swing to the political right all across Europe. We're seeing that in America, and a lot of that vote's been driven by young white men who feel they've been brought up in an education system that not only has abandoned them, but treats them like they're a toxic problem waiting to happen. Nick Fletcher, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight on GB News. Now, don't forget, you can stay with us all day, not just on TV, but on radio and on your smart speaker. To listen to us on your smart speaker, simply say, play GB News on TuneIn. And apologies if that just made your radio tune in. Now, in the studio, I'm now joined by State of the Nation host, because, of course, it's Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg up next. So, Jacob, you were listening in very tentatively to that previous debate there about white working-class pupils being totally abandoned.
Yes, and Nick Fletcher is such a good man, has really put this forward, brought it to people's attention in his time as an MP and subsequently. As you were saying, this is what has led to Trump's victory, that we have Equalities Acts that promote inequality, that they discriminate against people, and particularly, as you say, white working-class boys and men. And they've had enough, and that's why they're turning sometimes too far right to Tommy Robinson and people like that. But this is creating great discontent, and we need a simple law that makes everybody equal under the law without having all these priority groups.
And what's on your show tonight, Stu?
Well, first of all, we've got a defence review, but we can't keep our borders safe. Record numbers crossing the Channel in small boats, huge increase in migration illegally this year, government not doing anything about it. And I'm going to end with John Redwood's new book, which is a fantastic book on his childhood. John Redwood, extraordinary man, amazing mind, remembers his nappies being changed. He has earlier memories than almost anybody. So we'll be discussing that with him, and actually what it was like being a young man growing up when he did. And I'm sure that will have some relevance for today.
Wonderful. So Jacob Rees-Mogg, State of the Nation, is up next. Now, I'll be back tomorrow 3 till 6 p.m, but hold this moment. Tomorrow, in this chair, 7 p.m, Nigel's back. The return of Nigel Farage to Farage, 7 p.m. tomorrow night, only on GB News. Stay tuned for Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, and that's next. But first, here's your weather forecast.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now, things are going to take a bit of a change as we go through the next 24 hours. There's some heavy rain, some strong winds pushing through, and a slightly fresher feel following in behind. It's all due to a cold front that is coming in from the northwest, and it's going to progress southeastwards across the whole country as we go through the rest of today and tomorrow. So across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, a pretty wet picture overnight, some high rainfall totals, some strong blustery winds, and that rain later feeding into parts of northern and western England and Wales as well. Most places are going to see temperatures holding up in double figures, partly because of the unsettled weather. Then as we go through tomorrow,